Hello everyone, it's me the Boss Hog. A very special video this week as we make plans for 2023 as well as looking at how things have been going over the festive period. Let's do it. Alright, so in terms of targets for 2023, I realised last year I probably set myself too many targets, so this year I've just done four. Um, Although I think they all require a fairly long-term effort to achieve. So in terms of those targets, first of all, I want to get an outstanding for work. This may or may not sound impressive, but outstanding being like the highest performance review you can get. Before I had a kid, I was regularly getting outstanding at work, and I felt like I was really firing on all cylinders. It made me feel good. It helped me with my career progress, and I think kind of just over the last few years, as a combination of having a child, um, as well as sort of having some frustrations in various aspects of work. I didn't always respond as well as I would like. Started a new job a couple of months ago. Things are going super well at the moment. Like, I think actually if I was able to keep up this level of performance, there'd be a realistic chance of that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm more senior than I was 3 years ago, but at the same time, I sort of have higher expectations myself. So first of all, I'd like to get an outstanding at work. There are four levels of work basically that I can get, so outstanding being the top one. That's the first one. I'd like to bench 100k. I thought about this one for quite a lot. I basically wanted a physical fitness target. I thought about weight, which is kind of what I had this year, but then I realized that, like, especially if I want to start building muscle, it just isn't like weight for me isn't the most important thing, but strength is a lot more important. I did also think about some endurance things as well. Like, I do a lot of biking when I'm warming up, especially. As well as a few other things, but I thought this is good. Even when I was like at military school, so I was in quite good shape. I never benched 100 kilograms. The highest I ever got was 95, which was at least much more than I weighed. Now this would actually be at the moment benching slightly less than I weigh, but I think 100 is a good target. I mean, I'm quite broad, um, and I feel like 100 kilograms is within me. Currently, I'm doing sort of sets of 8 to 10, like three at a time, around 70. So it doesn't feel like that much of a stretch. However, at the same time, I'd love to not just hit this, like, and this would qualify, to be clear, if I did it once. But I'd love to potentially be doing like sets of 3 to 5 at this kind of weight, and then potentially going up a little bit higher as well. But I think 100 is a good, reasonable target that will take several months of kind of relatively strong gym performance in order to qualify. This one's interesting as well. I want to do one of these videos, or one of my other topics of videos. I don't know which one yet. Purely in Polish. I spent the Christmas period in Poland. My wife is Polish. I do understand a reasonable amount of Polish, and my speaking is not too bad. But I lack confidence in it. A few years ago, I was actually doing night school, where my kind of knowledge of the rules and understanding really improved, rather than just like memorizing. It was really starting to understand the reasons why verbs changed and etc. I've decided, especially with my new job, I'm now super close to that same language school. Beforehand, I was having to like travel across London and then go back again. It was just really tiring. Whereas now, actually, I can kind of just stay after work, maybe do more like a 10 till 6 day at work, and then go there for like 7 till 8:30. And it's still going to be a long day, but maybe I come home, put my little one to bed, and then just have an early night on that day. So that's a weekly course that I'm going to be starting in the middle of January. And I think it should be a strong foundation then to do a sort of 10 to 15 minute video in Polish. I will record it, so it won't be like kind of off the cuff. I don't expect my Polish to be that good within the year. But now my daughter's nearly 3, she started to sort of speak in sentences that go beyond my Polish, especially future tense, which is just completely different to current and past tense in Polish. At least with past tense, there are some very similar rules to current. Future tense is really tricky for me to do. It almost sounds like another language entirely. So I really want to kind of keep up with my daughter, and then hopefully, like we can learn together, sort of me and her. So that would be good. So that's a real focus for me. Probably, in my opinion, my hardest target, because again, I'm not very confident. I think it needs quite a lot of work to do a 10 to 15 minute video in pure Polish. It is an interesting one as well. This might be a surprise to people because I don't really talk about this stuff, but I have written and make up stories all the time. My daughter absolutely loves them. Even before then, I used to kind of like sing little lyrics and just like randomly make up songs and stuff like that, or poems that basically are the format of like a children's book. So I actually have a couple of these already ready to go. I kind of would like to find an illustrator, kind of do a 50-50 split, and basically produce a child's book, which I know again will be a surprise to most people because this isn't something I really talk about. Is kind of part of my creativeness, I think, alongside cooking, which I still very much enjoy doing. This is my other kind of like creative element. And yeah, like I regularly just make up songs to my daughter to kind of calm her down or send her to sleep. Like when I was in Poland and we were traveling a little bit by car, there was suddenly like a whole series of stories about about weather dragons. That I'd have no idea, but you know that could be kind of fun. And then there's a few other things as well. So again, I already have some of the stories like written. I just I need to find like an illustrator and understand the process of doing that. I also thought it would be fairly complementary in terms of additional income streams, and kind of diversifying from that aspect as well as potentially again balancing out what I expect to be an incredibly busy and demanding year at work. Um, so I thought that would be interesting from that perspective as well. So those are my four targets for the year. I mean, actually, in fairness, there's very little in terms of wording here. There's not much fluff. Um, you know, the getting outstanding at work is going to require the whole year. Basically, I have a bunch of big projects. I'm at a critical stage at a company I recently joined, and you know they're looking to double their base over the next year, and my area needs significant work. Benching 100k is probably my easiest one, to be honest with you. Like, I think if I really put in the effort to do that kind of, you know, gym 3 or 4 times a week and kind of just gradually building up the weight, I'm quite confident I can hit that one. Polish for me seems quite daunting, but again, I'm hoping that as I go to these classes, I get more confident. And then publish a book kind of needs a bit of time, but again, I do already have that, and it tends to come to me fairly naturally in terms of the content of those books. So we'll see how that goes and what that exactly looks like. It'll be a journey for me because I don't really know how to find an illustrator, how to publish, what that looks like in terms of commercials, etc. So that will also be a good educational piece for me. Now, on top of those targets, I just wanted to do a few things about keeping focus. So these are things that I'm kind of expecting myself to do, but at the same time, I think it's important that I don't forget that they're there in the background. So I would class them as like business as usual almost. So it's not like I should be doing anything to go out of the way. And in a way, if my targets are met, then my keeping focus will also be delivered. So that's the thinking. So first of all, I keep on investing. Like one of the things I've been pleased with over the last couple of years is, despite the challenges of the market, especially this year, and you know sometimes it can feel quite rough and demands on my time and money, like a daughter. We've been actually really good at sticking to this, and recently over Christmas my wife's daughter got a pretty sizable bonus, and we were considering like upgrading our holiday. We've got a holiday in February. It's kind of cheap and cheerful, like 8 days for $1,000 for 3 of us, right? It's not an expensive holiday. We were considering kind of really upgrading it. And then my wife was like, actually, Liam, to be honest, I'd rather keep that like 2,000 additional pounds, right? That's what we were looking at. And actually, like, let's look at what else we can spend that on. And I think like me and my wife now, especially, like, you know, she there was COVID, and before that she was pregnant, and you know, like, she felt like she missed out on a lot of stuff that I didn't need to miss out on. Whereas now she's kind of got a lot of that stuff out of her system. She's actually quite excited by the size of our investments and kind of getting into that as well, right? So that's quite positive, and we both increased our pension contributions at work. So I think like what I'd like to do here is aim for 70k across all of our investment types. So roughly what I expect this to look like is 25 to 30 grand into pensions, both of our pensions. It'll be about 18 for me and about 10 for my wife. Premium bonds will basically be whatever's left over. I expect it to be somewhere between 3 and 10. 10 pretty optimistically, I think. And then ISA contributions, I want to continue to max out our ISA contributions, which would be 40, right? Two individual ISAs, one for me and one for my wife. So about 70k here would be a good target. To put that into context, that would be currently about 55% of our income, so it's pretty demanding, close to 60%. Before bonuses, but again, like because I just joined my company, I won't qualify for a bonus next year, and my wife will get hers in December potentially. So you know, we're not expecting too much beyond our additional salaries, but we did both increase our salaries quite materially this year. So our after tax take home went up like 25% in terms of our familial earnings. So we do now have a reasonable amount of money. Obviously, part of this will depend on what inflation looks like and all those other good things as well. But I think this is a good target, basically. It's achievable without being easy, but we just want to focus on continuing to invest. Next up, again, this feels like it should be a BAU, but like it's not so easy. I think actually being a dad is something I very much do enjoy. So I don't really have too many doubts here. Actually, on the plane home from Poland yesterday, my wife had to sit separately because Ryanair didn't have 3 seats in a row. So I ended up sitting next to this guy, and my daughter at the moment just is relentless, right? She just speaks non-stop, which is lovely in a way, but you know, like I think a lot of the people on the flight were quite tired and etc. etc. And it was really sweet because at the end she's like, "Hooray, we've landed!" You know, the plane landed. Oh, okay. And then like as we were all leaving and stuff, like the guy who'd been sitting next to me like the whole journey was like, he said to me, he's like, "Mate, you're really good with your little girl. And I was like, oh, it's really nice of you to say. So I really appreciated that, actually. That kind of being like a good father actually matters to me. And actually being like a good husband is something that I used to be really good at. Like, me and my wife were talking about this a few months ago. Like, we were communicating. I guess you need to do this sometimes in a relationship, and it was like we both realised that we've basically been putting all of our attention into our daughter, which in a way is great. Like, I feel like we've given her a really strong foundation, but it also meant that we've kind of been like neglecting our husband and wifey duties a little bit. So again, like, that's just my wife mentioned that I used to regularly just randomly buy little gifts like flowers and stuff, and like hadn't really done that for a couple of years, which is totally valid. Like, I haven't. So it's just like making sure that my wife feels appreciated and loved, and all the rest of it, right? Which again it sounds silly, but when you've been married to someone for a decade, those kind of things, they start to feel less of a need to prioritize, but actually it's something that you do still need to work at. I think, like, even if you've been married for like 25 plus years, you still need to make sure that the other person feels appreciated, respected, loved, whatever else it is, right? So just making sure I keep on top of that. I feel like I've felt a lot better over the last few months about that, and likewise my wife is similar. So that's important for me to continue that into 2023. Likewise as well. So I mean, my YouTube channel was interesting because I've now had it for the better part of a year and a half, and for the first 9 to 12 months I really didn't care very much about it. Like, it was very much just to make sure that I delivered on what I said I would, which, because I'm quite a prideful man, if I say I'm going to do something, then I really try hard to do it. This is kind of the purpose of these videos as well, right? And then about halfway through last year, I started to realize that I enjoy gaining subscribers, and it's kind of a target for me. I did consider, actually, for target for 2023, kind of putting, let's get to 500 subs or something like that. But I preferred these targets. But still, I want to ensure that I keep on top of my YouTube channel. Like, the primary reason is still basically to keep myself honest, and to kind of talk about it, and everything else, especially when like the market's crap. Like, actually talking about like how you're feeling with fellow investors or your partner can make a huge difference to like how you feel and how you're able to navigate that. So yeah, so it's important for me to keep on top of it. Like, but actually my main goal is just to kind of talk about it, not necessarily to gain subscribers or etc. It's really just the fact, like, I want to be doing like 4 videos a week, and for the whole year, basically. Like, every now and then I kind of have a busy period here, or I go away there, and I just want to get a bit more organized and structured and reliable in terms of what my YouTube delivery looks like, I suppose. And likewise, the other thing, like, delivering these videos doesn't really come particularly easy to me. And it was interesting, like, one of my videos was really well received a couple of weeks ago, like got like 2.5 times the normal views, and it was telling for me that I put a little bit more work in it and made it a bit more structured, and had like formal notes that I could walk through, like, in the background, rather than just trying to wing it. And I didn't personally at the time feel like there was too much difference in delivery, but clearly it must have resonated a bit more. Like, it was really interesting for me to see the clear difference basically in viewerships. So I'm hoping that, again, if I put a little bit more work in, keep it a bit more structured, that will really improve people's enjoyment and get more subscriptions as a kind of result. So yeah, I want to keep on top of that. And here, I thought about this one quite a lot as well. You guys might recall that I wanted to do a bit more reading last year. I did read 5 books last year, which was my minimum target. I tweaked it a little bit though, because as I also read like a lot of like magazines, especially like New Scientist or scientific journals. I'm really very into physics. So I decided that actually what I'd like to do is do 2 hours of reading a day. That's kind of a better target for me, and that could be like reading about a company, it could be reading about physics, it could be reading about philosophy, or whatever else I want to read. Like, military strategy is a big thing for me as well. So I just want to kind of do this, and the way I'll probably structure this is aim to do something like 15 hours a week. I think that's a reasonable target, and basically just make sure that I'm learning and kind of keeping up to date with events, etc. So yeah, I think that's my targets. The formal targets are the top 4. I do think it's important to have rewards for targets, but I don't know what they're going to be yet. I'll think about that over January, and we'll decide. And then keeping focus here again, this is kind of stuff that should in theory be like BAU, so I don't want to make it like a formal target, BAU, business as usual, sorry. But at the same time, I think it's important that I kind of just make sure that I don't neglect these things by targeting other areas, right? So this is my target for 2023. I realize it's been a couple of weeks since my last video. See what I mean about keeping on top of YouTube channel. So let's have a look at what I've actually been doing over those last couple of weeks, and wrapping up the end of 2022. All right, so in terms here of updates, there aren't too many of these, by the way. We'll whiz through this quite quickly. So as I mentioned, I was over in Poland at Christmas with my in-laws. My family is quite all over the place, and my parents are no longer here, whereas my wife's parents are, and so it just feels more family Christmassy over there. So and you know, like they take good care of us as well. So that was nice. And I do actually like Poland. I think it's a nice country. The other good thing as well, I've been mentioning this across the last couple of months, basically, like October, November, and to a lesser degree December were quite expensive months for us for various reasons. It just felt like we had like a grand here, 2 grand there, costs were catching up all over the place. Um, but as a combination of kind of getting those costs behind us and also my wife's bonus, we now feel in a much better position again financially. So I put in 4 grand in December, literally over the festive period once we both got paid. So that felt really good as well to be doing that and buying again. In terms of what went well, I'm actually really pleased with my start to work. I got like a 6 week review from my boss, who's CFO, kind of an industry stalwart, and he gave me really great feedback. I felt really good about it, basically. And one or two other good feedback as well. I do have a few challenges, as you'd kind of expect. Again, I kind of prefer jobs where I have an opportunity to kind of scale something or improve something. So there are definitely challenges that I need to get on top of. But I think for the first 2 months, I'm really pleased with my performance. And the fact is, all that really matters to me at the end of the day is is my boss happy with my performance? And he is. And actually, just before Christmas, I had a chat with our CFO, and he was very complimentary to me and somebody else in my team, and he was like, it's really great, I'm starting to see stuff coming together, like I'm feeling a lot more confident in the direction of travel. Just was a lovely way to finish before Christmas. So yeah, I'm really pleased with the start for my new job and how it's looking so far. Likewise as well, in terms of meals, I'm still enjoying doing lots of cooking. My father-in-law isn't used to cook for them, but he's a little bit poorly at the moment, so I found myself doing quite a lot of like family cooking, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. But everything I cooked turned out pretty well. You know, and I kind of enjoyed it. I was like trying to fuse sort of like classical British slash French cooking, as well as sort of giving some tributes to Poland. You know, and just kind of going with what I fancied cooking, basically, from what was in the fridge. So that was fun as well. And again, like it was really well received. Like I think both my parents-in-laws are solid cooks. My dad was a chef once he left the army, and my mum was also a solid cook. So, and for me and my wife, like food remains an important part of our life. We like going out to restaurants. We like eating well. So yeah, so I'm enjoying cooking very much at the moment, and likewise eating as well. And in terms of the meals themselves, I've been pretty solid on what I've been eating. And yeah, I guess some good family time as well with my wife and daughter, so that just felt nice. Not much more to add than that, actually. But it was just nice to kind of, I felt well balanced actually between work and family. So yeah, just was pleased with that. What was solid? I said I did some reading, so I read an entire book on particle physics, which may or may not sound, I mean, to most people that probably sounds dreadful. Me, I really like it. I find it fascinating. I was particularly interested in sort of some of the newer developments around dark matter and dark energy, as well as sort of the hunt for sort of what happens after the Higgs boson, right? What's like CERN is getting back up and running, and some stuff on fusion as well, which is also really interesting to me from a variety of perspectives. And lastly, the James Webb Space Telescope, which I watched the launch on Christmas Day last year. Like I watched it live. It was so exciting, and you know, like the math and physics that goes into these things is amazing. And James Webb is really just starting to get up and running. You know, it's already seen like extra solar system weather formations and things like that. It's really starting to look quite powerful. And I'm very excited to see what that looks like over its lifetime as well. So I was doing a lot of reading on the sort of what it's achieved in its first year, and what it'll be looking at next. So a couple of projects there that it'll be working on really appeal to me. And yeah, I said this to my wife when I was out in Poland. Like the first 3 or 4 days, I kind of struggled. I was proper rusty with the Polish, and kind of struggling to get my brain into the right gear. But actually, by sort of day 5, it really started to come together. It also helps now because my daughter is also like really picking up Polish, as I mentioned. My wife speaks to her in Polish quite a lot, but when she was about like 2 and she was first learning to talk, she was starting to stutter and she was kind of getting a bit confused between English and Polish. So my wife deliberately cut back on Polish and just sort of stuck with English. Now she's a bit older and she's a bit more confident. It's coming a bit more naturally. So again, I think for me, it's nice that I'm sort of learning with my daughter. So that I was quite pleased actually by like day 5 that I was able to start talking and especially understanding. What didn't go well? So no poker or chess. Honestly, I think over 2023, I'm just not going to play a ton of poker. It used to really be like an important side hustle for me. I was earning like 10 grand a year, which was quite significant. You know, and the hourly on that's like 24 quid an hour, which is really good. I mean, that's like a 50 grand a year salary. So it felt like a very viable way to supplement my income. But now, like when I play poker, it's just exhausting. like I'm not in the right frame of mind. Typically, I'm having to like squeeze it in between looking after my daughter and kind of again husband duties and work. And you know, like if I play through the night, which is where I like to play, just it kills me for like the next couple of days. Like I have to sleep, and then again I've still got fatherly duties to take care of, and it's just not really enough money anymore to justify the kind of inconvenience in my life. So I feel like if I play poker, it's going to be like, you know, cheap tournaments every now and then when I have a bit of free time, but it's not going to be anything structured. So I don't want to measure myself on poker this year. If I play, then I play. If not, then I don't. And I realistically don't expect to play a ton. Similar-ish with chess. Like my chess seems to have plateaued. I went through like this streak where I massively increased my rating. It was very exciting. I had lined up like formal training from an international master, which is basically one below grandmaster, but it all kind of fell through. It was really annoying and disappointing. And I feel like without proper formal training, I just, you know, the next steps for me are basically to acquire a title, like a master title. And I'm about the right kind of level, but I know I have huge gaps in my game, and I just need like a structured learning environment that I don't have. Um, so again, I think I'm just going to park this. Like, it still is very much my aspiration one day to get like my FIDE Master chess title, but I think I need like several years of learning with an IM, so which is one above a master, right? To really do that. So again, I'm mostly going to park that. Maybe I'll read like one or two books. I do especially like the development of chess engines at the moment. I think it's actually a really exciting area. Um, and you know the way that you've kind of got like the brute force of Stockfish with the kind of let's call it like human intuition of Leela Chess Zero, like the two kind of complementary and interesting approaches from machines I find really fascinating and enjoyable. So again, I might keep on top of chess from that perspective, but broadly speaking, I don't expect to spend a ton of time on chess, and I didn't play very much over the holiday at all. And in terms of what else didn't go well, there was definitely lots of Xmas snacking. I mentioned I've been eating dinners well, but I've been eating a lot of like crap around the outside of that, so that was worth mentioning as well. So just a few updates there in terms of what's been happening over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I think we'll leave it there. Those are my targets for 2023. We're going to be doing a motivational video once a week moving forward, so we'll do this, and again, I think I'll basically kind of revisit my objectives for the year at least once a month, see how they're going, right? See how we're progressing, because again, a lot of them require long-term investment to really deliver. But that's me. That's what I've been up to the last few weeks, and that's what we'll be targeting in 2023. So stick with me if you want. Again, the main purpose of this is just to keep myself honest. But I know a few people kind of really live vicariously through these, which is also exciting as well. Like again, a couple of people actually reached out to me and basically said, you know, it's really exciting, different format. Kind of like cheering me on or kind of being motivated by this as well. So again, I hope you're getting value from it. I certainly am. So thank you very much for watching, everyone, and good luck with your motivation and life moving forward in 2023. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye for now.